and then I was the executive director. But during that time, I was just so fortunate to get a phone call one day from Texas Alliance for Life, and I really can't tell you who I got the call from, or maybe I met this person at the Capitol, and Dr. Poyman began to talk to me about the possibility of me bringing stories from pregnancy centers to help us pass pro-life bills. And one of the ways I did that was that I would find individuals who had been harmed by abortion, wounded by abortion, lied to and deceived by abortion providers, and bring them to the Capitol and coach them and help them stand in front of the Senate and the House alongside me and testify. And I just began this relationship, walking the halls with Dr. Poyman and his staff, and it's sort of the rest is history. And so in 2008, I became a part of the public policy and committee at Texas Alliance for Life, and then I was asked to be on the board. And so I want you to know that that piece of my life, of being able to affect change, to be able to stand with the then Senator Patrick and watch him be in awe over an ultrasound picture, and then help us pass the ultrasound law or bill. And some of those things have been some of the best moments of my life. And many of those moments are made possible because of a man named Dr. Joe Poyman. How many of you know him? If you do, please give me a round of applause, because I want to know if you're out there. You may not know that Joe Poyman didn't start doing what he's doing in the beginning. I mean, he was really a rocket scientist. Do you know that? And he worked for NASA, and that's pretty cool. But for the last 35, almost 40 years, Dr. Poyman has been defending life at the Texas State Capitol from conception until natural death. And so I want to introduce to you this man who is our executive director, leader. I love him so much. Sometimes I want to smack him, but that's okay. He lets me. And I'm going to introduce you to him. He's going to give you a report. And then we're going to talk a little bit about our keynote speaker. So, Dr. Joe, come on up.
Okay, good evening, everyone. For those in this enormous ballroom, isn't it great to be with more than 1,100, nearly 1,200 people? My name is Dr. Joe Poyman. As Terry said, I'm the founder and executive director of Texas Alliance for Life. On Friday, June 24th, the United States Supreme Court handed down its much anticipated opinion in the Dobbs case. The opinion completely overturned the terrible Roe v. Wade precedent that prevented states like Texas from protecting unborn babies from abortion before viability. Let me brag for a moment. We, Texas Alliance for Life, filed with that court a brief to help undermine the viability standard, okay? One of the pillars on which Roe v. Wade was built. Our brief was the only friend of the court brief that was referenced by justices during oral argument, and many of its elements can be found in the actual opinion that overturned Roe. After nearly half a century, states can finally protect mothers and unborn babies from the tragedy of abortion. An unmitigated victory. But Texas is well prepared for this moment. First, the state's pre-Roe laws protecting unborn babies from abortion, first passed in 1854, immediately went back into effect. Abortion providers were shocked. And then last year, the Texas legislature passed, and pro-life Governor Greg Abbott signed into law several substantial measures to protect unborn babies from abortion and to support women with unplanned pregnancies. So, first of all, we've all heard about the Texas Heartbeat Act to protect babies whose heartbeats are detected. That went into effect just over a year ago, and it had a market effect, 40 to 45% drop in abortions. The legislature also passed House Bill 1280, called the Human Life Protection Act, to completely protect unborn babies from abortion beginning at conception. Now, that bill was among the top priorities of our principal partners, the Texas Catholic Conference of Bishops and Texans for Life. Now, the law went into effect on August 25th, 30 days after the court's final judgment. You may have heard it's a trigger bill because it's triggered by the Supreme Court overturning Roe. And I must say we're a little bit bold in preparing for Roe being overturned. Some people thought, never going to happen, Dr. Joe. Well, okay, it has happened. Now, the Human Life Protection Act is so powerful, it is the last stake in the heart of the abortion industry in Texas. Now, here's why. It has three elements of enforcement, which, frankly, our partners and I, we had a strong hand in writing. First, it makes performing an abortion a first-degree felony offense, punishable by up to 99 years in prison, equivalent to premeditated murder. Second, the Texas Attorney General can bring a fine of at least $100,000 for any offender. Now, does anybody here doubt that the pro-life Attorney General, Ken Paxton, would hesitate to defend unborn babies? Nobody. He will, as soon as he gets the opportunity, he will do that. Third, the law requires the mandatory loss of medical license for any doctor, physician, nurse, pharmacist who participates in an illegal abortion. Now, we've heard about some of these cities, Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, and others, who claim they're going to make their district attorneys categorically fail to prosecute violators, which would be a dereliction of their duty. But even if they did that, the second and third penalties will still deter abortions, and they are. Since the court's ruling, our organization has received more than 100 calls from the news media. New York Times, New Yorker, Washington Post, Dallas Morning News, San Antonio Express News. Interesting, and numerous calls from overseas media, from Ireland, Spain, Sweden, Italy, Poland, Japan, France, Mexico, and all over Latin America. They want to know what's going on in Texas. Well, our communications team calls this law by its actual name, the Human Life Protection Act. If we called it the trigger law, Texas, trigger, they're just not going to get it. So now you're going to find this very interesting. The New York-based Guttmacher Institute, which advocates for abortion, issued a report 2 days ago, the 100 days since Roe was overturned. And this was a call to action, a scream for action, but they are admitting that all 23 abortion facilities in Texas have stopped performing abortions. They have stopped performing abortions at the 3 abortion facilities here in Austin, the 3 in San Antonio, the 3 in Dallas, the 2 in Fort Worth, the 9 in Houston, and the facilities in McKinney, McAllen, and El Paso. All 23 abortion facilities have stopped. And by the way, this agrees with our own internal intel, which we track this very carefully. After 50 years, legal abortions in Texas have ceased indefinitely. Is that awesome? Like all abortion laws in Texas, women on whom abortions are performed have no liability and cannot be prosecuted or fined. If you see the media saying anything others, they're wrong. Okay? Also, our laws do not allow prosecution for ectopic pregnancy or miscarriage or other procedures to save the mother's life. Okay? That is the law in Texas. If you're hearing the media saying that women can't get treatment for ectopic pregnancy, okay, there's no reason for that at all. Also in 2021, last year, the legislature appropriated vast funds to assist low-income women, especially women with unplanned pregnancies. The legislature appropriated $100 million for the current 2-year budget towards the highly successful Alternatives to Abortion program, which we strongly supported. The Alternatives to Abortion program provides services for women facing unplanned pregnancies to assist them in carrying the baby to term so that they can give birth, keep the baby, or place the baby for adoption. Services continue for 3 years after the birth of the child. Also, the legislature appropriated $1.2 billion per year for pregnant women with incomes up to twice the federal poverty level. The state's Medicaid program pays prenatal, childbirth, and follow-up care for mothers for 6 months after the birth of their babies and for the babies for 12. And in fact, more than half of all births in Texas are paid for by the state of Texas. So, you members of the legislature and you governors of Texas who supposedly don't care about low-income women after they are born, you actually don't exist. They don't exist because Texas is doing this for women. In addition, hundreds of privately supported nonprofit and church-based organizations provide programs for pregnant women and their unborn babies before birth and long after birth. So, all you pro-lifers who only care about babies until birth, who are only pro-birth, you don't exist either. So, getting to this point has been quite a journey. I think you'll agree. I founded Texas Alliance for Life 34 years ago with a small band of rebels in faith, believing that someday we would arrive in this moment in history. And here we are. And is it not time to celebrate? But wait, now how are we going to keep these gains? What if we lose these gains? But how could that be? Well, President Ronald Reagan famously said, freedom is a fragile thing and is never more than one generation from extinction. This is even more true for our pro-life gains. And what a tragedy it would be to lose them in only a few years or just a few election cycles. And think about this. Are our kids and grandkids as pro-life as we are? How about our neighbors, our colleagues at work, okay? Friends, acquaintances at a church? Let's be honest, we have a lot of work to do to truly build a culture of life. We must hold and even expand these incredible gains. Here are our goals at Texas Alliance for Life. And the first is education. We must educate our society on 3 main points. First, the unborn child is a baby, deserving of protection. We know, each of us knows that the life of each of us came into being at our conception. Science has told us that for more than 100 years. Each person who has seen an unborn child on an ultrasound machine knows that the unborn baby quickly develops arms and legs, fingerprints, a beating heart, wakes and sleeps. The second point we have to educate people. Abortion hurts, not helps women and families. The pro-life movement has many women and men who have been involved in abortions. Why are we in the pro-life movement? Because we know firsthand how abortion has hurt women and how it has taken the lives of our children, and we do not want anyone else to go through that, not the women and not the babies. Third, Texas provides vast resources for women with unplanned pregnancies. Abortion is completely unnecessary in Texas. When a woman faces an unplanned pregnancy, her first thought should be, where do I get help for my unborn baby and for me? Because she knows that within a few miles is a pregnancy center, a Gabriel Project, a maternity home, adoption agency, other organizations. The reality is that women with pregnancies can compete in society academically, socially, vocationally, professionally, athletically, without abortion. Women can have babies, planned or unplanned, and do great things. We are launching a major educational campaign on social media, emails, websites, speaking engagements, and funds permitting, broadcast to educate Texas on those points. The campaign is designed to energize pro-life voters, but also to reach undecided citizens. Our goal, to build a culture of life in people's hearts and in their minds, in which abortion is not considered unnecessary, but truly unthinkable. Now, the Texas legislature begins in next January. People have asked, Dr. Joe, are you going to be lobbying in the Capitol again? Well, yes, we are. And number one, we have to continue to advance the pro-life cause in Texas law. While we've accomplished so much, we must hold these gains while addressing the new challenges, like, for example, trafficking of illegal, highly dangerous, abortion-inducing drugs in our state. They're coming here from other states. They're coming here from other countries. We've got to address that. We have to address attacks on the Human Life Protection Act and the Alternatives to Abortion program, the attacks that want to weaken or eliminate those. And there are attacks from the Biden-Harris administration. For example, to make every VA hospital in Texas an abortion facility. Now, November 8th, the general election is just 30 days away. Let me ask you, are you committed to getting out and voting pro-life? Think about this. Robert Francis, Beto O'Rourke, and his allies support making abortion legal throughout pregnancy. Abortions on healthy babies with healthy mothers right up to birth. Now, Governor Abbott supports completely protecting mothers and unborn babies from abortion. And friends, I think it's pretty plain. Our choice is clear, but our responsibility is even more clear. We have thousands of pro-life, pro-Abbott yard signs going out across the state. This one is going in my yard, but we have hundreds out there that you can take on your way out. And if we run out, or for those watching online, just go to our website and you can order yours. And we have our state and federal PACs have a goal of reaching hundreds of thousands of voters with this pro-life message, and to get them to our voter guide online, prolifevoterguide.org. Now, you Leadership Circle members, we can't thank you enough, because without your financial support, we could do really nothing. And I also thank our sustaining members who help us with our ongoing expenses, and of course, everyone who donates time and money. Let's continue to make Texas a state in which abortion is entirely unthinkable, and where everyone, from conception to natural death, is protected and thrives. Thank you.
So, in the words of Sally Fields, you like him. You really like him. Isn't he awesome? You know, oftentimes people ask me, why are you continue to do what you're doing? Well, why not, right? Because evil prevails when good men do nothing. Dr. Joe Poyman stands for truth and justice and honesty, and he really likes babies. I failed to welcome our online audience. Now, they can't give us a round of applause. Well, we can't hear it. But I think it would be nice for us to give them one. They are in their homes. They're listening. They have meals. So welcome, welcome, welcome. We're glad you're here. If you sat in the other chair instead of the chair, then you received a program, right? The every other chair. Anyway, in that program, you read some bios and saw some pictures and things like that. And one of them that you might be interested in reading is the bio for our keynote speaker that's about to come up. We're so excited to hear Dr. Anthony Levatino. And I am not going to bore you with his or assume that you're stupid and you can't read or don't read English or whatever. I'm not going to read it out loud to you, but I would like for you to read it. And I want you to hold it up for a moment because it's a pretty cool tool, and take it home and read through it. And because we had a sponsor that actually provided the funds for this and other things. And so I want to give a shout out. And I'd like you to help me give a shout out to Quantum Digital, who was our registration sponsor and provided this. And thank you so much. Nonprofit work is hard, and it's so wonderful to have partners that come alongside of us. Well, now it's the time of our program where we are going to invite our special guest, Dr. Anthony Levatino. And again, you can read his impressive academic accomplishments as an attorney and a physician. And since I raised both an attorney and a physician, I'm going to go home and call them and say, hey, why aren't you doing both? But whatever. What I find, though, I sat beside him and shared a cup of coffee. That's about all we had time to eat because we were chatting so much. But I was really mostly impressed by the fact that he looked me in the eye. And he was very interested in what I do and why I'm here and why I'm alive. So I really got a picture of more than just his academic abilities that we can read about and his accomplishments, but it's really the content of his heart. And it was these contents of his heart and that created a change in his own heart, and the fact that he changed his position from supporting abortion and even, sadly, performing nearly 1,200 abortions to who he is today, one of the most influential advocates for the pro-life movement in the United States. So let's give a great big Texas welcome to Dr. Anthony Levatino.
Thank you all for being here. It's great seeing a crowd this big. How many people are at a pro-life function for the first time? Raise your hands. A bunch of you. Thank you for being here. I am also very pleased to see so many politicians in the room. My wife's a politician, so I had to say that. No. And after their introduction, the devil's going to make me do it, but I have to say, my name is Anthony Levatino, and I'm running for the school board in Toltec, Arizona. Because school boards are important, and we've been forgetting them for too long. No more. The story I'm about to tell you is not an easy one to tell, and I promise you it's not an easy one to listen to. But I promise you that everything I'm telling you is firsthand and true. You are here for a purpose. I believe that. We are all here for a purpose. But for a little bit, I want you to imagine that you're an obstetrician gynecologist like me. And I want you to imagine that you are a pro-choice obstetrician gynecologist like I used to be. Your patient today is 17 years old. She's 20 weeks pregnant. Her uterus is all the way up to her umbilicus. If you could see her baby, and it's easy on an ultrasound, her baby would be the length of your hand from the tip of your middle finger to your wrist. That's head to rump, not counting the legs, a 20-week baby. She's been feeling her baby kick for the last 2 weeks, but now she's asleep on an operating room table and you're there to help her with her problem. You wash into the operating room scrubbed and gowned, and on the right, there are some instruments. And the first thing you reach for is a suction catheter. I know this is a big room and it's hard to see, but this is a 14 French suction catheter. It's about 11 inches long. It's clear plastic. And picture yourself putting this through the cervix into the uterus and instruct your circulating nurse to turn on the suction machine. And what you'll see is pale yellow fluid running through the tubing into the machine. That was the amniotic fluid that was there to protect the baby. Now, if she were only 12 weeks pregnant or less, a 12-week baby is the width of your hand from head to rump. You could pretty much do the entire abortion with this one instrument. Babies this big do not fit through catheters this size. So you reach for your Sofer clamp. It's about 13 inches long. It's stainless steel. The business end is about 2.5 inches long and 1/2 inch wide, and there are rows of sharp teeth. This is a grasping instrument, and when it gets a hold of something, it does not let go. A second trimester D&E abortion, the way I used to do them, is a blind procedure. You don't see anything. You do everything by feel. Picture yourself putting this up through the cervix. Now, be very careful not to perforate the walls. They're thin and soft. It's easy to do. And grasp anything you can blindly and pull, and I mean hard. And out pops a leg about that big, which you put down on the table next to you. Reach in again, grasp and pull hard. Out comes an arm about the same length, which you put down on the table. And reach in with the same instrument again and again, and tear out the spine, the intestines, the heart, and lungs. Head on a baby that size is about the size of a plum. You can't see it, but you're pretty sure you've got it if you've got a hold of something and your fingers are spread as far as they will go. You know you did it right if you crush down on the instrument and white material runs out of the cervix. That was the baby's brains. Now you can pull out skull pieces. Sometimes a little face comes back and stares back at you. Congratulations. You just successfully performed a second trimester D&E abortion. You just affirmed her right to choose. You just made what in today's dollars is the equivalent of over $2,000 in 15 minutes. Now, I graduated from medical school in 1976, and if you asked me at the time how I felt about the abortion issue, I would not have hesitated for a second to tell you I was pro-choice. This was a decision between a woman and her doctor, just like you hear today, and nobody, including the baby's father, had anything to say about it. There are a lot of people that describe themselves as pro-life or pro-choice. For a lot of people, it doesn't directly affect their lives. It doesn't even affect how they vote. But when you're an obstetrician gynecologist and you say you're pro-choice, this isn't some vague political position. You have to decide whether you're going to actually do those operations. So right along with learning how to do hysterectomies and deliveries and all the things that obstetrician gynecologists do, I learned to do first and second trimester abortions. This was the late 70s. Technology was a little different. There weren't any medication or chemical abortions at the time. If our patients were 12 to 13 weeks pregnant or less, we'd bring them in for suction D&C abortions. And when it was my turn to do them, I would do 2, 3, 4 in the morning, never thought anything of it. If they were more than 13 weeks pregnant, we'd make them wait several weeks, and we brought them back for saline abortions. Now, these aren't done anymore, but suffice it to say that these women had to go through labor, and it would take anywhere from 8 to 36 hours for them to deliver their usually dead children. But hey, I'm a doctor, and every doctor, abortionist or not, wants the same thing: happy, healthy patients. It was during my first year of training that I was working at night and went down to the cafeteria for a break, and an attractive young nurse came and sat down next to me that I'd never met before, and it was the lady that was to become my wife about a year later. Now, New York had legalized abortion 3 years before Roe versus Wade. And when she had been approached as a nursing and nurses training and asked if she would assist at abortion procedure, she said absolutely not. She was pro-life, she wanted no part of it. And as far as she was concerned, that was the end of it, because she was ultimately involved in renal transplants, one of the first nurses trained to do that. And that was the end of it for her until we met. Now, obviously, we started dating and found out pretty quickly we were on opposite sides of this issue. And very early on, we made one of the most fundamental and frankly stupid mistakes anyone can make in a relationship. Instead of discussing it and hashing it out and coming to some kind of resolution, we ignored it because it was easier. And that set up a pattern that lasted too long in our relationship. We got married, and like so many young couples, we wanted to have a family of our own. Found out pretty quickly we had an infertility problem. She was just not getting pregnant. I sent her to the best infertility specialist in town. Any woman who's been through an infertility workup knows that it is difficult, painful, embarrassing. And she would come home from those visits, lock herself in the bathroom and cry, because two ironies were not lost on her. One, here she is married to an OBGYN and she can't get pregnant. Two, here she is trying to get pregnant and her husband's killing babies and abortions. But as soon as that thought came in, she'd push it away. Her doctor told us there was one last procedure he could try. It would take about an hour and a half. But when he walked out of the operating room 4.5 hours later, he came up to me and said, "Look, I never tell anyone that they're not going to be able to have a child of their own, but don't count on it." We were devastated. We both came from large families, and we wanted a family of our own. After we got over that shock, we decided, okay, we'll adopt a baby. We'd be perfectly happy to adopt a baby and care for that child as our own. And anyone who's tried to adopt a baby knows how difficult that is. We went to religious agencies, we went to state agencies, we went to county agencies, we went anywhere we could think of. And the best we could do after months of effort was to get on a 5-year waiting list to get on the actual waiting list. It was during that time that I had my first doubts about abortion. It was strictly selfish. I'm not an idiot. I know why there are no babies to adopt. People like me doing abortions. And I remember doing those abortions and thinking during that time and thinking, gosh, I'm throwing these kids in the garbage. Wouldn't even one of these moms allow us to take her child home and care for her as our own? But of course, it doesn't work that way. After a lot of frustration with that, I came up with what my wife still credits. We will have been married 45 years this December. But I came up with what, thank you. I came up with what she still credits as the best idea I've ever come up with in our relationship, other than my asking her to marry me. And that was, this is ridiculous. We're getting nowhere with the normal channels. I know 50 obstetricians on a first-name basis. Let's advertise. Maybe we're lucky. Maybe some kid will fall through the cracks, and maybe we'll be able to get a baby through a private adoption, and that's what we did. Months after we started that process, in August of 1978, it was working. And in the early 80s, those of us in the abortion industry were looking for a better method of second trimester abortion, the later ones. The saline abortions we'd been doing up to that time were very difficult on patients, very difficult on staff, dangerous, expensive because of the prolonged hospital stays. We wanted a method of second trimester abortion that was like suction D&C. We wanted a method where the patient would go to sleep, and when she woke up, it would all be over. And that's when D&E abortions were being developed, the one I described. There are a lot of physicians in Albany who were doing abortions, but no one wanted to touch that procedure. And we saw an opportunity. So we trained ourselves to do these later abortions. And as a result, we were getting referrals from other physicians to do these abortions on their patients. Over the next 4 years, I did 1,200 abortions. Over 100 were the late-term abortions that I described. But hey, life's good. Finally making some money, we can afford a home, we can afford some furniture, the kids are growing, and everything was just lovely until June 23rd, 1984. June 23rd was a beautiful day in Albany. I was on call, but it wasn't very busy. It was a Saturday. I made rounds, took the kids to an amusement park that afternoon, had dinner with them, and the kids were playing in the backyard when we had friends come over for cake and coffee. And at 7:25 that night, we heard the screech of brakes out in front of our house. The kids had gone in the road. Heather had been hit by a car. She was exactly 2 months away from her 6th birthday. We ran out and did everything we could. I'm a doctor. I'm supposed to be able to save people's lives. My wife was an intensive care nurse at the time. This was our work. As I said, we did everything we could. It made absolutely no difference, and she died in our arms in the back of an ambulance that night. Now, if you have kids, you may think you have some idea of what that feels like. If you haven't been through this yourself, you haven't got a clue. I hope you never find out. But what do you do after a disaster? You bury your child, and you try to get back into your life. And I don't know how long it was after Heather's death, but I showed up at OR number 9 at Albany Medical Center just like I had over 100 times before for a second trimester D&E abortion. I wasn't thinking of this as anything special. It was routine, and I had other things on my mind. And I reached in with that sofa clamp, and I tore out an arm or a leg, and I got sick. Earlier, I talked about stacking up body parts on the side of the table. That's not to gross out the people that came to the dinner. When you do an abortion, you have to keep inventory. You have to make sure that you get 2 arms, 2 legs, and all the pieces. Because if you don't, your patient will come back infected, bleeding, or dead. So I finished that abortion. And I know that it sounds strange, but I promised you earlier that everything I'm telling you is firsthand and true. For the first time in my career, after all those years and all those abortions, I really looked at that pile of body parts on the side of the table. And I didn't see her wonderful right to choose, and I didn't see what a great doctor I was helping her with her problem. And I didn't even see the equivalent of over $2,000 I just made in 15 minutes. All I could see was somebody's son or daughter. And this suddenly was looking very different to me. It occurred to me in that moment that this patient had come to me, figuratively, never literally, and said, "Here's $2,000, kill my son or daughter." And I was the kind of person that would look her straight in the eye with no compunction at all, say, "Sure, I'll do that." Needless to say, we were in a crisis. We just lost our daughter. Now, I told you earlier that we had made a mistake by not hashing out the abortion issue. The problem with not talking about an important issue in your relationship is it gets too comfortable not talking about other important issues in your relationship. And we've been growing apart. And with Heather gone, everything burst wide open. I didn't just stop doing abortions. I knew why I felt bad. I'll get over this. I was dedicated. But my wife always knew when I had abortions scheduled the next day because I was an absolute bear to be around. I got into a blame game. I was hurting, but I got into a blame game. It was a girl's fault for getting pregnant. It was the nurse's fault for scheduling them. It was the hospital's fault for allowing them. It was everybody else's fault but mine. Isn't that always the way? And after a few months of that, unbeknownst to me, my wife had had it up to here, and unbeknownst to me, she had packed a bag and she was 5 minutes away from leaving with our son. Now, I'm full-blooded Sicilian, she's full-blooded Irish. So trust me, we could have really lively discussions at times. And she was not going to leave without having her say. So she broke our unspoken rule after all those years and blasted me with, you know what? It's not the girl's fault, and it's not the nurse's fault, and it's not the hospital's fault. It's your fault. You stupid idiot, if you're feeling so bad about this, why don't you just quit? That was the opening salvo in an hour-and-a-half discussion about abortion and a lot of other things that were going on. I'm happy to say that she didn't leave. I went to my partners the next day and told them I would no longer do any more second trimester D&E abortions. It was too difficult. I'd just do the little ones, the suction D&Cs that we did in the office. And for several more months, I soldiered on doing those. I told you I was dedicated. But a change had occurred that I couldn't ignore. You think of doctors as so smart. We're no different than anyone else. When you finally figure out here, not here, that killing a baby this big for money is wrong, it doesn't take you too long to realize it doesn't matter if the baby is this big or even this big. It's all the same. It is so easy for the other side to talk about abortion. It is so easy to talk about discarding someone else's life. Today you're an adult. Once you were a child, you didn't look anything like you look like now. Once you were a baby. Once you were literally 2 inches tall. But it was always you. And I'm ashamed to say it was that long, but in February of 1985, I went back to my partners a second time, and I told them I would no longer do any more abortions, and I never did after that. Stop doing abortions? Now you know why I quit. There was nothing noble about it. I hurt. I quit. That's it. Get involved in the pro-life movement? Not a chance. You see, everyone in the abortion industry knows that everyone who's pro-life is a kook. I know this because CNN tells me so, and they would never lie to me. There's more to the story that I don't have time to tell. But I do have enough to say that I want to say while I have a little more time left. On December 1st, I was in front of the Supreme Court with a group of almost 100 pro-life physicians to listen to the arguments in the Dobbs case. And we were as pleased as you when on June 24th, the court came through and overturned Roe versus Wade finally. We won, right? It's all over. Yeah, no. This is when the fight really begins. We're only 30 days away from an election. And I don't know about you, but every single election I hear how it's the most important election in my lifetime. And it's true, until the next one. But it is true, and it's important. The abortion issue and the overturning of Roe has really galvanized the other side. They are willing to fight for what they believe in. Are you willing to fight for what you believe in? It took 50 years and 60 million innocent kids torn apart in suction machines or ripped apart in D&Es or poisoned with chemicals with RU-46 to bring that decision down. If we don't fight, and I mean politically, and I'm sorry, I know there are people in this room think that's a dirty word. You better get used to it. We're going to lose those gains, and we're going to lose those gains quickly. So in Texas, Robert Francis O'Rourke wants to bring back abortion on demand. Now, I don't know, I don't see the ads in Texas, but I don't even have to imagine because I'm seeing them in Arizona. See, we have the same deal in Arizona. We have no abortion in Arizona as of today, none. But all I see, thanks, but Arizonans, like Texas, have got to fight. Because all I'm seeing is heavily financed ads for the governor and for the Senate, tens of millions of dollars, talking about how extreme the pro-life candidates are. And they keep telling me that 67% of people support Roe versus Wade. I'll bet 67% of people in this room don't even know what Roe versus Wade really said, or what they're really saying when they say that. You heard. Now we've got, okay, Texas outlawed abortions. But the VA hospital's federal land. So we're going to turn the VA hospitals into abortion clinics. Oh boy, what a great deal. Just like when to turn the federal parks into abortion clinics. But don't worry, because as they say, quote, the only abortions they're going to do in the VA are the ones that are medically necessary and appropriate. What does that mean? The lawyers in the room know that every single word matters. What does Roe really say? In the first trimester, no one can prohibit an abortion. In the second trimester, from 13 to 27 weeks, the state could, if they wish, pass laws of public health type laws. Only doctors could do abortions, for instance, or you could mandate that they have to be done in hospitals, but you can't prohibit them. Once you get to 27 weeks, which was viability in 1973, no longer, then the state could prohibit abortions, if it wished, unless the woman's health was at issue. Now, every single word matters. So what should you ask? What does the word health mean? Roe didn't tell us. Everybody knows Roe v. Wade. Seriously, how many people know about Doe versus Bolton? A few hands. You should know about Doe. It was a companion abortion case passed the same day as Roe. And thank God, Doe defined health for us. Health includes a woman's physical health. Well, that's great. But how bad does her physical health have to be to justify a third trimester abortion? Doesn't say. I mean, what if she has cancer? What if she's going to die? What if she has a headache? It doesn't say. It includes her mental health. Okay. But how bad does her mental health have to be? What if she's schizophrenic or suicidal? What if she's depressed or worried about her finances? Doesn't say. It includes her economic health. Wait a minute. How rich do you have to be economically healthy? Doesn't say. And my absolutely favoritist, it includes her social health. What the heck does that mean? I'll give you an example from my own practice of what I believe was a legitimate abortion on the basis of social health. remember, and I wasn't running an abortion clinic. I didn't care if you had the abortion or you wanted to have the baby. I was going to make money either way. But a 17-year-old came in for her 5th abortion and made it very clear to me that she wanted an abortion specifically because she did not want to be pregnant for her senior prom. That's her social health. So when they sit there and they tell you, well, you know what? We're only going to do abortions that are medically necessary. Or, I'd be happy to support your pro-life legislation as long as it has a health exception. They've been playing that dodge for the last 50 years, and we've been buying it. When they say only medically necessary abortions to them, every abortion is medically necessary. Don't let this happen. Votes matter. And this is now, I'm not a Texas native, okay? I'm speaking from Arizona, and I am literally speaking for the rest of the country. If Texas goes down in terms of abortion, the whole country goes down. Know that. I am no Trump fan, and I'm not going to get into that. But if it weren't for Donald J. Trump, we would not have the Dobbs decision today. Period. With respect to all the politicians in the room, I'm going to tell you a secret. I'm married to a politician. So I'm going to tell you a little secret. And you can't make blanket statements about all politicians. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to tell you something you may not realize. Most politicians really like their jobs. They want to keep them. Okay? And I have said this 1,000 times, and I will say it again. If every single pro-life person, if every single person who claimed to be pro-life in this country, if every single person sitting in a church that says it's pro-life voted pro-life, just one election, just one, give me one, pro-life politicians would appear like magic. Just once, you go to that person and say, you know what? I love your stance on immigration. I really love what you're doing with health care. I applaud what you're doing with whatever bill it is you like that they support. But, Mr. or Ms. Politician, and I don't care if they are running for President of the United States or for dog catcher, no pro-abortion politician gets our vote, ever. If we did that just once, we could have, and I mean us. Why is there abortion in this country? I blame us. I blame us. If we did that just once, it would end. So, vote. Get politically active. Get like-minded people to vote. And when it comes to pro-life matters, you've got Texas Alliance for Life fighting for you in this state. They are out educating. They are out lobbying. They are out promoting candidates. They are helping to do the difficult legwork in your state legislature that keeps Texas pro-life. But they can't do it without your help. They cannot do it without you. Their goal tonight is to raise $400,000. That is easy to do in a room this size. But when they come to you, be generous and support them. Now, I was having lunch with Joe Poyman this afternoon. He told me, they need 2 new staff members. That's $60,000 apiece. I'm willing to bet good money that there are a couple of people in this room that could support at that level and bring those staff people to that organization. But when they come to you, be generous, because without you, they can't do their job in keeping Texas, and I mean it when I say, goes a long way toward keeping the United States of America abortion-free. Thank you all. I appreciate your attention. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I don't know why you came tonight. Maybe because you wanted to be a part of the largest pro-life gathering in Texas since June 24th, 2022. Maybe you came because you wanted a chicken dinner. If you did, I'd like to talk to you later, because you got some problems. Maybe you came to see what Dr. Joe was going to say. I don't know about you, but I came to hear that man. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'm a firm believer in redemption because I know the Redeemer, and God indeed redeemed the years the locusts ate in that man's life. And so I want to introduce to you my really good friend. It's going to take him a little while to get up here, so I'm going to give him some time. This is Lance Peterson. You know him well because he calls you on the phone a lot, and he checks on you, and he may even know your dog's name. He knows my dog's name, and he knows my donkey's name, and that's important. But Lance is our director of financial development, and Lance is going to talk to you about, well, the real reason why you're here tonight. So listen and give generously.
That is kind of a funny story that Terry and I share regarding the name of her donkey, because I don't know many people that have pet donkeys, but it's true. Anyway, but to be more serious, we thank Dr. Anthony Levatino, Dr. Joe Ployman tonight, and this is kind of the point during our meeting, during our banquet, when the rubber meets the road. So if I could ask each one of you to pull out the white envelope at your tables, and then there's inside that table. So for example, if you're a table host, you kind of maybe have done this before. If not, there's a large white envelope. It's got your table number on it, table 25 or something. And then if you could each, pass it around to each of your table guests, and then you'll see a smaller white card like this. So this is the pledge card of the donor card. We're asking for your financial support tonight. We're entirely, nonprofit. We don't get support from the government. Probably wouldn't want it either. But it's all from the generosity of thousands of donors like you here tonight. So the first thing I'd like to say is that the pledge card is also available online. Some of you may have your smartphones and you might prefer to make a donation online, but this exact duplicate is online. Or there's a QR code here at the bottom, and you can use the QR code to open that up on your phone as well. If everyone could at least fill out the card, fill in your name, your address, your contact information. There's a variety of reasons why we need to contact you throughout the year. Of course, for our pro-life voters guide coming up here in November, but other reasons, events like this, of course, the Walk for Life. So please, at the very least, fill out your contact information so we can get a hold of you. If you'll notice, the very second section is our annual Leadership Circle membership. There are 4 different levels. Donations range from $1,200 a year up to $10,000 a year. You all who are joining the Leadership Circle either tonight for the first time, or maybe you're renewing it for hopefully multiple years, you're the heart and soul of our financial support. It's your support that helps us budget throughout the year, so that when Joe needs to hire attorneys to draft legal briefs, which we just used in the Dobbs case in Washington, D.C. That way we have the financial support so we can go to the bank account and we know that we have those resources available. So Leadership Circle membership, really, really important. Again, those annual giving levels are from $1,200 to $10,000 a year, and then you can either make a one-time donation or a lump sum tonight, or you can make a monthly donation or quarterly, or if you have some other creative donation frequency you'd like, just call me and we'll figure something out. Also, the next section is the sustaining member. Why sustaining members? We realize that there are people who, based on their salaries and all, you may want to be able to give at the $10 a month level, the $25 a month, or the $50 a month level. So those are really critical as well because we need to turn the lights on, we need to pay the electric bill, the water bill, and of course pay the rent just like anybody else. So if you want to become a sustaining member, that's really, really important. And then even if it's just an other donation of a one-time amount, we have several different categories there toward the bottom of the card. Maybe that's $100 tonight. Maybe it's $500. And again, each one of those donations can be made either one time or a monthly donation or a quarterly donation. Let's turn the card over. Sorry if I'm being elementary, but maybe you go to different events throughout the year, different fundraisers. Everybody has a little different strategy, but our donation card is tried and true. So on the very back side, it'll say the payment method. Nowadays you can pay virtually anything in any way. So you can pay by check, make a donation by credit card, or a direct debit from your bank account. We actually prefer the direct debit from your bank account. It's highly secure and it's extremely cost effective. It costs us pennies to process each transaction, where a credit card transaction costs a lot of money. You're actually giving more money in fees to the credit card companies than you would the bank. So that's important. And then what's kind of unique about Texas Alliance for Life, we're actually 4 different organizations. I mean, we are Texas Alliance for Life, but Texas Alliance for Life, Inc. is our legislative organization or group. The IRS, we have different tax statuses that we have to comply with. So Texas Alliance for Life, Inc. is really important. That helps us out, again, with our legislative efforts. And coming up this year with the 2023 legislative session, we do need funds to help us with our legislative work. Those are not tax deductible per the IRS rules, but then the remaining 3 are the state PAC, so that helps us elect officials at the state level. The federal PAC, pretty obvious, but at the federal level, so we can help elect congressmen and senators as well as presidential candidates. And then also the trust fund is the last item. That's for our educational efforts, and that is tax deductible. So again, we have 4 different organizations because of the nature of our legislative or educational work, and we have to follow the IRS rules with each one of those categories. I just wanted to mention, I just loved hearing Dr. Levatino speak tonight. What a powerful life story, conversion. Really, really, really powerful. What man designed for evil, God has restored for good. But also I want to realize that very few of us can be a Dr. Levatino. Very few of us tonight. We don't have his medical or legal experience. So I kind of feel, what can I do? And then thinking of Dr. Joe Poyman's experience, very few of us here tonight can be a Dr. Joe Poyman. We don't have his 30 years of pro-life and legislative experience. Pretty hard to duplicate. So what am I going to do, right? I'm here at the dinner, I'm at the banquet, this is a great cause. How can I individually make a difference? I don't have Dr. Joe Poyman's skills. I don't have Dr. Levatino's skills. But each one of us can make a difference protecting mothers and unborn children tonight by supporting Texas Alliance for Life. Your financial support does give us the ability to influence future legislation and to inform thousands of Texans about the dignity and sanctity of innocent human life. So I'm asking you for your generous support tonight. Each one of you will decide how to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And so will the mothers of the unborn babies you will be saving through your financial support tonight. And as Dr. Anthony Levatino asked, we are all here for a purpose. We're all here for a purpose. You may have been invited by a guest. You may have found out this may be your first event, your first banquet with us tonight. But ask in your heart, what is your purpose to help out for the pro-life movement? And tonight we are asking for your financial support. As far as the white envelopes, some of you are probably way ahead of me. Just put your donation cards back in there. We do have a team of our board members who will be picking up the envelopes at the end of the night, so we do protect your your financial information. So that's really important, and we'll be safeguarding that. If any of you are concerned about that, you can give me the donation, or Dr. Poyman, or one of our board members. They'll come by the table. So thank you so much tonight. Give yourself a round of applause for coming. There's almost 1,200 pro-life guests here tonight. Thank you.
Well, now we have to say goodbye. I want you to know I'll miss you until next year. But keep in touch with us, and I want you to welcome to the stage Pastor Spencer, who's going to be giving our invocation. He is the pastor of Austin Baptist Church. I just met him this evening and had a great discussion with him. And I want to leave you with wise words from my father, who always said this to me. He said, Terry Kay, you can only do what you can only do. You just better do it. And so I leave you with that, and I leave you with Pastor Spencer. God bless you. Be safe going home. Be careful on those roads.
Let's pray together. Father, we thank you for tonight. Lord, we thank you that we do have much to celebrate tonight. Lord, thank you for the work you've done, and Lord, the work that we know you're continuing to do to build a culture of life here in Texas, but all around our country. Lord, we thank you that you are a God of life. But Lord, we also know there's an enemy who's come to steal, kill, and destroy. So Lord, I pray that we will live those lives that you've called us to live, Lord. Lord, I pray that we'll be your hands and feet as we leave here. Lord, I pray that you will help us and empower us to speak truth, but Lord, also to speak it in grace, just as your Son did. Lord, thank you that you love us and you love our lives so much that you sent your Son to give his own life so that we can live. So Lord, I pray that we will live lives in a manner worthy of the gospel. And Lord, that you might empower us, embolden us, and multiply us to, Lord, bring your purposes here to the great state of Texas. Lord, thank you for this amazing event. Lord, I pray that you will take all of this work, Lord, and use it for your glory. And bless every individual here in this room and the homes that they represent. This is our prayer. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.